Welcome to Talk Birdie To Me. This is Australia's most popular golf podcast with former world number 16 Nick O'Hearn, the only player to beat Tiger Woods twice in match play, and tour pro Mark Allen, who played professional golf around the world for 15 years, including a British Open. We're coming from our studio at Titleist and FootJoy headquarters. Titleist is the #1 ball in golf, and FootJoy is the #1 shoe and glove in golf. And thanks to our great partners, Watch My Numbers, the most powerful database golf app in the world. Download from the App Store or Google Play. Ping, as with Nick O'Hearn, will help you play your best. See your local golf shop or professional for a Ping Club fitting. The Golf Clearance Outlet beat everyone's prices. Visit golfclearanceoutlet.com.au for your nearest store. And Better, the fastest and easiest betting app in Australia. Now that's better. Now, from our studio at Titleist and FootJoy headquarters, it's time for Talk Birdie To Me. Here's Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen.
Look at the acceleration, Nicholas.
How's the sound?
The sound is still good. The ball is on the club face for a long, long time. We promised many more feature episodes of Talk Birdie To Me. And as promised, I'm happy to say, we've got a very good friend of mine, someone I looked up to as a young man, someone who won 2 Australian Masters. He played many, many US Opens, got to a US Masters as well. But I can tell you this, Nick. When Bradley Hughes first went to Europe, I think one of his first rounds was a 10 under par 62. I promise you this, caddies in Europe were having punch-ups to see who could caddy for this bloke. And that is as true as it gets. And Bradley Hughes, good to see you, mate. Thanks so much for coming in.
Mate.
It really is good to see you.
It's awesome to be back and see you guys.
Tell us about those early days, mate. I remember you as a 14-year-old kid. You were, shooting scores that 14-year-old kids shouldn't be able to shoot. You were obviously something special. I played in a state team with you, and I think you went through undefeated, and you were 6 or 7 under every single round. It was just ridiculous. What was it? What drew you to golf?
I think I just liked the individuality of golf. I thought, I was a football player growing up, but I really loved the practice of golf. I kind of enjoyed playing football, but I didn't like the practice, the training and all that, running laps, doing push-ups.
You were a star footballer. You were a star when you were.
I got signed to play for Melbourne,
for the Demons.
When I was young, but that took a back seat pretty soon after I played that Vic Open on my 15th birthday.
Oh, was it your 15th? So you qualified when you were 14?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And I was actually leading after 8 holes. I was 2 under through 8 holes in that tournament. I got to the 9th green and I saw my name on the scoreboard and I thought, no, I got to get out. I promptly double bogeyed that hole and evaporated myself off the board.
Unreal. You had this golf swing where, it's very different to what they teach today. You had this huge one-piece takeaway. Was that from My Golf, Jack Nicklaus's book, or Golf My Way?
Indirectly. So obviously Greg Norman and my birthday is the same birthday, same date. He's 12 years older than I am. But the first time I ever really went to the golf and saw a star play was him at Kingston Heath in 1979. My dad let me take the day off school. I walked onto the first tee at Kingston Heath. It was a Monday, believe it or not. Greg Norman was there on the tee with his caddy. Yeah. So I just said, I know this guy, I'm going to go watch him. And it was just me, his caddy, and him for 18 holes. I walked around, talked to him, watched, asked some questions, and then I bolted back to Rossdale Golf Club and I kind of tried to practice everything I learned from that day. So he taught himself off Golf My Way, so that's why I said indirectly. Nicholas Norman, and then me. I loved the feel of the wide backswing because it set the downswing for you, and my footwork was kind of like Greg's. I had to use my feet really strongly to propel stop the force of the club moving, and that was how my swing was built.
Well, I remember in the late 90s when I was sort of coming onto the pro circuit, You know how, Mark, you know how you walk on the range and players stop
Yep.
and watch? Well, one of them was always Greg Norman. You
Yep.
know, you watch Greg and he'd hit these shots. And the other player I always remember was people would stop and watch you, Brad, because your ball striking was unbelievable and the speed you created through the hitting zone was just effortless, number one, but so much power.
The acceleration was off the charts.
Yeah, it certainly was. So where did that come from? Is that just a natural gift growing up, or was it more through technique, or was it a... You tell me, because I never had it.
I think I understood, I was very analytical without being analytical. I could see, or even asking Greg, and I was, like yourself, I've been fortunate to hang around a lot of great players over my golf career, and sometimes, great players aren't teachers, but they can give you details of what they're thinking, feeling, and seeing, or what I can see in their swing. So I kind of went beyond what they were telling me, and I could see these differences that they were doing. And I just believed that impact is just a spot in the swing. It's not the end of the swing. So I just really realized that, my target is over that way. So I want to pay attention to out there. So it does make a different sound. As you know, like you basically compressing the ball harder for longer, and it makes a deeper sound, which is what Norman had and Sandy Lyle and Woozy and a few other guys.
Yeah, it's funny. That's a similar philosophy to my old coach, Neil Simpson. He said, look, the ball is not your target. It's actually through the ball. He always said to me, look, through the target, basically, out to in the distance. That's where I want you to get the club head to. The ball just kind of gets in the way.
Well, I think golf's still a target game. It's not a golf swing game.
Yeah.
So that makes 100% sense.
I can't wait to talk about your golf coaching down the track, but let's just in this front nine, let's just talk about your career. I reckon you got off to a hot start. Did you won the West Australian Open early days, and then that was almost a stopover to Europe. What can you remember about that first win?
So I had played for Australia. I won the New Zealand Amateur, and we played in Thailand. We played the World Amateur in Sweden. And when I got back from the Swedish trip, the Eisenhower Cup, I turned pro. And back in the day then, they had a rule: if you won the Australian Amateur or the New Zealand Amateur, you didn't have to go to Q school. So I was basically granted an exemption because of the New Zealand win. But I did have to go Monday qualify for the first tournament, which was the Tasmanian Open, and we played at Tasmania Golf Club. So this is October 88.
Yeah.
21 years old, and I thought, let's go for it. I've kind of won enough salt and pepper shakers and toasters and things. Let's go try and win some money. So I went to Tasmania. I Monday qualified, and back in the day, if people don't remember, if you made the cut, you would advance to the next tournament. If you were top 60 the previous year, you'd get in everything. So if you played well, there was a chance that you would continue playing. You didn't have to qualify every week. So I went to Tasmania, and I shot 79 in the first round, and I basically got the yips. I putted awful. I had 3 putts all over the place, and I thought, what is going on? So the second day I got on the practice green, and I just tried cross-handed for some reason, and I putted great, and I ended up shooting 69, 70, 69. I came 7th.
So you made the cut after shooting 79?
Yeah, wow. I shot 79, 69. I mean, the cuts were a little bit higher back in the day, but that course is tough, in the wind.
It is,
and
absolutely.
So not only did I make the cut, I came top 10. I made $3,033.
Holy
I remember
dooly.
that. Thought I was pretty rich. That would go on an airfare and a fish and chips nowadays. But so that got me in the New South Wales Open up at Concord. I came 12th. Kept going on to the next week. And I got to Western Australia. We played at Lake Karrinyup, and the greens were incredibly fast. Like, you could drop a ball on that 18th hole, which I think is the 9th now, but it would fall off the front of the green. They were lightning. They were like Royal Melbourne back in the day speed. And I started off, and I shot 4 over the front 9, and then I came home. I don't know if this is a record. It probably is. I shot 4 over my first 9, and I was leader at the end of the first round.
That's a record.
Wow.
So I shot 40-31.
Oh.
1 under was leading. That's how tough the course was. And then I had 71 the second day, 67 the third day, and opened up a 3 or 4 shot lead. Did not sleep.
Yeah. Didn't no sleep at all?
Not on Saturday night, because you get all those dreams of, what if I win? I'm getting exempt. I'm making $18,000 and all that. So I played okay. I got a little bit nervous and I fell over the line by one. So I went 7th, 12th win, and that solidified my exemption.
I want to know, Mark, you had the course record at Lake Carrinup. Did you break his course record or
I had
what?
the course record for a very short period of time,
Okay.
but I did have it there at 66 in the West Australian Open. I don't know, 99 it might have been.
Okay.
But the golf course was a tough course, wasn't it? I mean, they could trick it up to where it would play very, very, very difficult. So you move from that win, and then you get over. Now, was it your first round that was 10 under par or something crazy in Europe?
Yeah,
That's
so
the way remember it.
I played 10 tournaments that year in the Aussie Tour. We had a pretty long stretch. I made all 10 cuts and had the win. So 1989 is now the following year, and because I played so well, I got Rookie of the Year. So I got some invitations to Japan. I went up to Japan. I came 4th in my first event there, and
Unreal.
made the cut in the other one.
It's
and
a
then,
dream start to a career.
Yeah.
I mean, everything you're saying
Well,
here is amazing.
Back then, golf to me was easy, and I didn't think much. I just played. Like, I wish, we all wish we could bottle that and just do that forever. But I ended up getting an invite to the Benson Hedges tournament, which wasn't until August, later in the year. But I did some growing, grew some teeth, and went to Canada and played over there on a couple of events on my way to Europe. And the Benson Hedges had a great history. The Aussies, I think Norman won it, Graham Marsh, Jack Newton, Noel Ratcliffe, Peter O'Malley. So,
Noel Ratcliffe won it, did he?
yeah, so there was a lot of great players. So they gave me an invite to that. And the first round I ever played in Europe, I hate to say this is probably a record, but I hope it is, 10 under in your first round in Europe.
course
It's
it is.
probably got to be a
Of
record
course it
score.
is. No one's done that.
And I obviously was in the papers and getting pictures and all the stuff, and it was pretty overwhelming. But I shot under par the next 2 days, and I actually played final group on Sunday. And I went out with a little par birdie start, and I just thought, I'm going to win this thing.
Yeah.
And then I half hoselled a 4-iron on a par 3 into a bush, and I made a triple bogey, and that was the end of that. But I did come top 10, came 9th overall in that tournament, and then I got some more invitations. I played the Swiss Open up in Cran-sur-Sierre, the European Open. I played with Brian Barnes and Sandy Like, all these. It was a really cool experience. And then at the end of that season, I went to European Tour School and came 3rd.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
had my card for Europe in 90.
Right. And you were there for a few years, I believe?
That year was a little bit of a disaster. For some reason, I just didn't pick it up where I was. I had people staying at my apartment there, and it was just crowded, and it was just, I had
Were you in
nowhere to
Bagshot or
practice.
somewhere like that?
I was in Richmond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with Ted Lasso and all those guys. So, and I just didn't perform well, and I changed paths after that and ended up going to Japan for a few years instead, before ultimately getting to America.
Righto. So I look at your career, and I hold the Australian Masters very dearly, and to be a 2-time champion, a couple of gold. You still got the gold jackets?
I do that at my house. yeah.
Unbelievable.
With the shirt that I wore the last day
You're
underneath.
kidding me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're kidding me.
Out of interest, do you don the jacket every now and
I
then?
don't know.
or-
It's under glass. I'd have to cut it open to do that.
Craig Spence does. He still brings it out to the dinner table every once in a while. What was the pinnacle? When you look back at your brilliant career, I mean, a US Tour player for quite some time and a reputation for being one of the best hitters of a golf ball the world had ever seen. What do you consider the pinnacle of your tournament career?
I would say, well, I was fortunate to play all the Masters, all the majors, the Masters, 4 US Opens, 4 British Opens and a PGA. That was fun. That was the stuff we grew up watching on television. Individually, probably the Australian Masters. That was a massive tournament back in the day. And, as we saw in the clips and all that, the crowd was crazy. And it was a big tradition. Like, everyone used to go there.
Well, the world number 1 and world number 2 were there that week in '93.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so you had Greg Norman and Nick
And
Price.
you clipped them too.
I clipped them. Yeah, that was well. That's funny. That's as high as I got. That's my moment in time. But I mean that people don't realise just how big those wins were back in the day. I mean, we look back at them and it was a nice little tournament, but it's not. The Australian Masters was world renowned, wasn't it?
It had great world ranking points. I think from playing that and playing in Japan, I was playing in Japan most of that year. I got top 70 in the world, just without even really playing in America, which is big achievement, because the points were a little bit lower. But probably the President's Cup was my biggest highlight.
I was going to ask, actually, you played in the first one?
I played in the inaugural one.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a mishap because I'd been to the meetings. I was not selected. But as it happened, a player had to pull out right at the last minute, and I was next in line. So
Nice.
I flew from Japan to Washington, and 2 days later teed it up with world number one Nick Price against Fred Couples and Davis Love.
How'd you go?
I blacked out on the first tee, but I did birdie 3 of the first 8 holes.
Wow.
And we were 5 down. They birdied all 8.
Oh, you are kidding me.
And then this probably sounds a bit reckless, but on the 9th tee, Nick Price, he just won the PGA, the Open, the Canadian Open. He was number 1. And I looked at him, I said, come on, Price, you're number 1 in the world. You're meant to be better than this. Pull your finger out. So we actually went on a roll there, and by the time he holed a 5-iron on the 13th and I birdied 14 and 12, we got back to square. But we ended up losing on the second.
Wow.
One down. But it was awesome to be part of and do the White House and be part of the first one.
Well, I reckon you've just ripped up our front 9 here as well. I'm keen to take a quick break and have a talk about your coaching career, and I'm just looking up some of the names that currently you've got Brendan Todd, Peter Malnati, Mark Hensby, Cameron Percy, Jeff Ogilvy, Matt Goggin, Tom Power, Horan, all great players, but some of these other players you've coached in the past, Harold Varner, Branch Snedeker, Luke Donald, former world number 1, Ollie Schneiderjans, Brian McPherson, Robert Allenby, Russell Knox, Scott McCarron. There's some really big names. I want to know more about your coaching career in just a tick.
We're live from our studio at Titleist and FootJoy headquarters. We all know the number 1 ball in golf is Titleist, and the number 1 shoe and glove in golf is FootJoy. We're here thanks to the Golf Clearance Outlet. They beat everyone's prices. Ping will always help you play your best. Turn your bogeys into birdies with the Watch My Numbers app, and Better, the fastest and easiest betting app in Australia. That's better. Now, back to Talk Birdie To Me. Here's Nick and Mark.
So you're a complete flusher of the golf ball. Sound, distance, trajectory. That shot at the last, Nick, I just want to tell you, the last shot at the 72nd hole, a 3-iron, I think it was 199 yards, so I'm guessing. Yeah, 199 yards into a pretty heavy wind. Hugo had this low start to his long irons where it would start low, it would rise, and then it get to the top, and then it would somehow drift left magically with this big draw, and it came down as soft as you've ever seen a 3-iron land.
On those greens too.
On those greens, and the noise was outrageous, just how loud it was. Like I said, I had goosebumps. I did the next shot with goosebumps, and I hit the scoreboard, which we all laugh. Good on you. Thanks.
No worries.
Thanks for laughing. But I imagine that's the way you remember to hit a golf ball. But how do you go about teaching others with their limitations? Some of them would have, and obviously some of their gifts as well. I mean, it must be, I don't know, from your perspective, from the way that you could actually crunch a ball, to teaching others how to play the game.
Well, I always tell people, when I'm doing lessons, and remember, when I first started teaching, I wasn't that good at it. I would just kind of regurgitate stuff that I'd heard or been taught. But then I thought, I don't want to do this. So I took like 6 months off coaching, took a back seat, and I studied all, not only what I did or what I thought I did, but initially I looked at bad swings, or what people commonly referred to as bad swings, which your Lee Trevino, Peter Senior, Chichi Rodriguez, even Arnold Palmer. People would say they're not politically correct golf swings.
That's true.
But they all did these certain things in the certain places. So what I learnt was the golf ball doesn't care what your swing looks like. It only cares about the physics and the forces and the dynamics that you put on it. So I kind of worked out a way of teaching where I pay zero attention to grip and I pay zero attention to backswing for starters. I just teach someone how to flush it first.
Yeah.
And then once you learn to flush it, then you learn to keep the flush going with the post-impact stuff, which we talked about. Like, you can't just pressure the ball, you've got to pressure the swing to the end. And then where it goes, you learn to aim or you learn to ball position for it. So it's not that hard. So I kind of designed a series that I do with people. And the first guy I ever did with was a beginner, not very good, couldn't break 130. Every shot, a wedge or a 3-wood, went 40 yards forward and 30 yards right. They all would have, you could put a basket out there and his 3-wood and wedge would land in the same basket. So I said to him, look, I got this theory about how to teach. I'd love to test it out on you, like you're my guinea pig. So I tried this thing, and the first lesson I did is drill 1, where I teach people how to what I call the 430 path, which we can explain another time. We'll look it up on Google.
We'll get you on the simulator in a tick.
Right.
You can show us.
So I kind of said, this is where all the best players came from. This is how they release the club to make it work. And they force the club back onto plane to hit the low point and all that. So he did this drill and said, all right, go away. I'll see you in 3 weeks. Like, just do that for me. And he rang me up. I got a phone call at 11:30 one night, very late. And he was too excited. He had to call me and goes, I've got to tell you, he said, I just broke 100 for the first time.
Wow.
And this is 2 weeks later, and we've only done the 1 drill.
That's fantastic.
And I said, that's awesome. And he goes, no, that's not the best. But he said, I shot 86. So he dropped 44 shots of his best score just learning this one thing. So from that moment on, I thought, all right, this is going to work. Yeah. So that's kind of the way I've taught. It's more drill work that you do at home, because it's less ball orientated, but the ball ends up reacting to it. So,
and this is the fourth. What was it?
430 path.
430.
Yeah. Well, now you got to explain the 430 path.
So,
let's get him up.
Yeah,
Let's get him up.
absolutely.
Get him up.
So the way I teach people is I teach people from their perspective. I don't teach from a coaching perspective. I don't coach from down the line. I want to coach them from what they see. So you pour a golfer, because the ball is not level with their eyes, it's down here, they want to hit the back of the ball. So their main intention is to start hitting the back of the ball, really early in the swing. And by the time they get to the ball, the club is coming across it. So they're the big slicer or the puller or the open face. So what I get them to imagine is there's a big clock on the ground from their view, and the ball is the middle of the clock. So my feet are at 6 o'clock from this view, and then the extension of where our target is would be 3 o'clock. So they're trying to get used to seeing the shaft come from the clock line of 4:30. So from the camera view or from an instruction view, that would be obviously different. But we know the club works on an arc, so it has to work around and down in this viewpoint from their perspective. So you've got to teach the golfer what it looks like for them, and what you'll kind of find is if I put that shaft on the 430 path, that's what all the good players look like, right?
Just turn a little bit to your left there, so just we get it on the camera. No, Mark, it's this one here. Bottom right. Yeah, it's over here.
How's that? So this would be too steep, right? That's the 3 o'clock path. That's the 430. So if I try and hit this ball, if I just, you can see how easy it is to hit the ball straight. And what happened is the club works around and down to strike the ground in the right spot, and you don't fat it or thin it. But it also encourages what Nick knows, is that as my arms are rotating this way, my body moves with it. So it teaches me to keep going with the swing.
And I'm assuming, because Mark's holding this board, the down under board, I'm assuming for yourself, a lot of it's footwork from the lower part. You mentioned earlier players like Trevino and Rodriguez and all the Arnold Palmer and all that. If you kind of go above hip high, basically, and the backswing and the follow through, that's probably whatever it is, but I'm assuming it's the low point where their feet are really working the most. Does that has to do with this invention?
Yeah, so the down under board, obviously I named it because I'm from Australia, but it was down under your feet. So it's been one of the really instrumental things in helping Brendan Todd get better, because he was very tall and he wouldn't use the ground. Most people early extend. And that's kind of typical because when we jump or throw, we always push, and then we extend the hips and pelvis, and then we throw. So obviously if I'm hitting a golf ball, this is instinctive, and then my body goes the other way, I'm already too far away from the ball. So I have to, basically throw the club at the ball with the hands. So using the board, it provides a really strong pressure in my feet that I continue to go down to hit the ball rather than away from the ball.
So are you squeezing?
Squeezing, yes.
You're squeezing the board.
I'm squeezing the ball with both feet inwards. And what happens is it teaches this right leg to drive and it teaches the left leg to be stable. And what happens is I'm now providing a force that I can pull my body away and see what happens to the board. It's like the Scheffler and Greg Norman and kind of what I did.
Yeah.
So if I start with squeezing the board and I keep squeezing until out here, then my feet can dissipate away from the board. So you kind of watch what happens to my feet. You watch, I know Mark loves my after impact stuff, but watch how fast it happens. You can see the pressures that I'm teaching my feet, because you have to provide that way pull the body so it sets us all up for the after impact.
So you're teaching the big names that you teach on tour, are you teaching them that sort of stuff?
Absolutely.
They're all on the down under.
They all have a board. Luke Donald had one. Brendan Todd always goes wherever he wants to go with it. He has it there all the time.
I wish you'd have invented this 20 years ago. It might have helped.
Well, yeah, it's obviously most people are not unsure of it. They know it works, but they probably don't understand the full benefits. So initially I used it to push to pull. Push harder for longer. The more you push, the more you rotate your lower half open, and the harder you can pull your body. So what that does is it stops the hands from flipping over. Because the faster my body moves, the harder I can hit it and not flip the club over. So
there's pretty famous people used to say, the best players that they wish they had three right hands.
Right. Exactly
so,
right.
Ben Hogan, I think David Graham was another one. He seemed to think that there was no possible way I can hit it left if I'm accelerating through.
Correct. And the board helps you set that up, and you don't even have to know about it. You just have to do it and train it. So that was the main concept of it for my drill 2 and 3, which is footwork and pressure and then post-impact. But then what I found was I used it with Vaughan Taylor, who I taught on tour a little bit too. And he said, I set up square now. When the board's there, I squeeze and I can see that I normally want to have open hips and closed shoulders. So it squared him up. It helps you do the one-piece takeaway. Helps you turn your chest, separation of upper body against lower body. Helps you push down. So it basically, and I'm biased because I invented it, but I think it's probably the best swing aid probably ever made, because it's not reliant on just one part. It covers the whole swing from start to finish.
Especially in a world where every time I turn the TV on, there's somebody saying ground forces.
Correct.
Now, the only ground forces I can remember, Nick, was maybe when I was trying to straighten my left leg or something. But that's not really
Keep your
ground.
right foot down or something.
Yeah,
like
something like that. Yeah. So you were you thinking about this stuff early in your professional career, or as a career as a kid, or was it just things you did naturally?
It's one of the things I learned off Greg Norman. Now, if you watch him back in the 80s, maybe even the 70s, certainly early 90s, if you imagine him setting up to the ball, you can almost see him physically push himself into the ground before he took the club away. So what he was doing is he was building all that force into his feet and legs to then shift away from.
Wow.
So what I do is I teach him to train with that, because it's pretty severe. And then you'll like this, Mark. I might even show you this today.
Go, please.
Afterwards.
I want to see it.
If I want to hit a normal shot, I press my feet like I'm using the board to a 7 out of 10, like 7 pressures, 10 max.
Yep.
And then I swing. So that's my normal standard distance that I could hit a club. Now, if I want to hit it a bit further, I push to an 8 or a 9, and I don't change my swing goes faster.
It'll just go faster.
Yeah, and if I
because
drop
of the
it,
ground pressures.
Correct. And if I drop it to a 5 or a 6, I can then take some yardage off. So I can make the same swing without feeling that I swing harder or feeling that I swing softer or shorter or longer, and create different distances.
Wow.
Which is pretty useful under the gun of tournament golf, that you just go at pressure, not how far do I have to go, or how hard do I have to do it.
So who benefited the most of the people that you have coached? Who benefited the most out of the ground pressure stuff and the down under board?
I'd definitely say Brendan Todd. When I first started working with him, he was 2,500 in the world and had missed like 40 out of 43 cards. And then within a year, we got his card back, and within 14 months, he won twice in a row.
I remember this, yeah. And
I remember.
Certainly him, based on where he was at that point in his career. He was about a month away from giving up golf and opening a pizza store.
Wow. And
And
that's
now
funny.
he's made $15 million.
Yeah, it's not bad, is it? Well, I hope you get a little cut of that anyway.
I wish I got a bit
So with Brendan, I haven't heard much of him lately because his game's gone a little bit off the boil. I heard he's not working with you anymore, but he's coming back. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, we stopped working in July last year.
That'll teach him.
Well, ultimately, I can't blame him because I try and make my golfers self-sufficient, that they don't need me.
The best coaches
much.
do that.
Yeah.
Sort of phase myself out. It's not a good business plan, but it's a good plan for your golfer. But he's struggled a little bit. So just before I ventured my way back to Australia, he got in touch with me and said he's really struggling. So we're going to start up again when I get back.
Well, as we finish up, do you do some online stuff? Because I reckon everyone who's listening in is as locked in as Nick and I are.
Yeah.
I mean, Howie's has certainly pricked up. I'll be squeezing my feet together next time I hit a few golf balls. I know that.
Well, the other thing is, where can people get the down underboard? Because I want to get one myself. So.
Yeah, well, the down underboard, you can go to the website downunderboard.com, and they have them. We have them in Melbourne, ready to ship.
Perfect.
So it's not as if it has to come from America. As far as myself, I have my website, bradleyhughesgolf.com. If you look under the lesson area, you can get in touch with me how to do the lessons or buy my drill series. And then one of the better things that I did is, initially I was a YouTuber and I had videos on there, but you can't say too much on YouTube because you don't want to give it all away for free. And then if you do or don't, people get mad and they put in the comments. So I kind of got away from YouTube and I just made my own members site, which is bradleyhughesgolf-members.com. And they're way more in-depth videos that I talk about everything because the people are paying for the information. So I would start there. If people want to get involved in it, it's pretty cheap for what it's got. There's over 600 videos on it. So you'll see a lot of the stuff we talked about today and other things. And I like to make videos of questions that people send in too.
Well, it's after all those years, mate. Back in '79, your dad gets a day off school for you, and you walk around 18 holes with Greg Norman to winning a couple of Masters, Australian Masters, of course, and then having this elite coaching career. It's great to see you. Thanks so much for taking the time to come in, and good luck with everything you're doing.
I love it. Thanks. Great to see you guys again.
Thanks, Brent.
All righty. One and done, Nicholas, of our feature Talk Birdies To Me. There's going to be plenty more, and we'll see you next time.
Perfect.
Good on you.
More speed off the tee. More control with your irons. More spin with your wedges. And more opportunity to shoot lower scores. The all-new Pro V1 and Pro V1X.
And that's been Talk Birdie To Me, Australia's most popular golf podcast, with Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen, coming from our studio at Titleist and FootJoy headquarters. As everyone knows, Titleist is the #1 ball in golf, and FootJoy, the #1 shoe and glove in golf. Wherever you get your podcasts, make sure to subscribe, maybe leave a review, and we'd love you to share the pod with a friend who loves their golf. Huge thanks to our fantastic partners. Ping, like they do for Nick O'Hearn, will help you play your best. You can see your local golf shop or professional for a Ping club fitting. The Golf Clearance Outlet always beat everyone's prices. Visit golfclearanceoutlet.com.au for your nearest store. Watch My Numbers is the most powerful data-based golf app in the world. You can download from the App Store or Google Play. And better, they've got the fastest and easiest betting app in Australia. Download from the app stores today. Now that's better. Keep in mind, what are you really gambling with? But for now, from our studio at Titleist and FootJoy headquarters, thanks for being a part of the show. We'll see you next time.